This is Robert Decker. You are listening to Everyone Needs a Spotter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everyone Needs a Spotter, the multifamily fitness podcast brought to you by the team here at RMS Fitness. I am your host, Steve Heitzer, joined by the faithful team here today, starting first with Emily Vinos. Some know her as Lil Wipey. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
It's an unusually fantastic Thursday here. I
Yeah.
don't think we've done a Thursday podcast. We've done some Wednesdays. We've done a lot of Fridays, but this is fun to be here. Robert, fearless leader.
Steve, looking forward to it.
Looking forward to what?
Whatever it is we're going to be talking about.
Me too.
We just said there would be no giggles today.
Already.
No, giggles are fine.
Looking forward to it.
You know, I too am looking forward to it. But all jokes aside,
I mean, we are looking forward to the podcast.
we are, guys. Look, we promise this is not going to be a regular thing. These past couple weeks, it's the time of year. It's the end of the year. We're all feeling relaxed. It's kind of ready to put a stamp on the end of this year and move into the next one.
We're off tomorrow, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, it's a long weekend for some of us. So we're doing it here today a little early, and we're all having some fun. But no, we are happy to be here. Last week we had a chance to hop in here and record a episode. But before we get into the episode that we recorded last week and what we are going to talk about this week.
You didn't even introduce me.
Man, look.
Old
Joined
invisible
here
Donna
as
Dio.
always with the faithful team. Stephen, I don't know Donadeo. How's it going, bro?
Donadeo.
Donna Dio.
No, here he is, folks. Stephen Donadeo, how's it going?
Good. That's better. Now I feel welcome.
You are welcome, man.
Thank
So you know what? I do apologize for that, folks. Here we're a little off our normal routine, but no, you know what? We had an exciting week here this week. Some of the reason why we're off our normal routine is because it's a short week. We're off tomorrow for the long weekend, but a lot of us had an exciting Monday as well. We had a visit. Who came here on Monday, Emily?
Jason Sutton from Chisel Fit.
Yes, he did. Jason Sutton came here from Chiselfit, not Jason Sullivan, which is what I typed originally on the invite that I sent out to everybody.
Welcome,
So
Mr.
Jason-
Sullivan.
That was really funny because Jason had taken a picture. He was looking directly at it. And Steve comes in a few minutes later and goes, "Is your name Jason Sullivan?"
No, I knew it was wrong when I saw it. I was just working too fast, like always. So, we appreciated Jason's visit. He came from Chiselfit here to kind of show us a little bit about his Challenger product. He helped us get one set up here on our showroom floor. We demoed it for some customers and clients and friends and the in-house team here.
It was
Had a
good.
chance, to learn about how it works, how it's made, kind of the science behind it. We all took a chisel challenge. Stephen, how'd that go for you, man? Tell us about your chisel
It
challenge
was a
experience.
60-second chisel death because
Because then he blacked out afterwards.
I was literally seeing little birds, and I was like, I got to lay down for a minute here.
For anyone that actually has met Stephen in real life, just imagine him curled up in the fetal position
Pale.
on a couch.
All I remember was, where'd Steven go? Anybody know where Steven went?
He really did disappear. It was like
I
one of
did.
those trap doors in a concert stage where he just disappeared. We nobody even knew where he went.
I've
was-
never, ever seen Steven lay down
was
on the
bad.
couch that we have here, ever. And I walked back there and just saw that man ghost-faced.
Just the slight little bit of headache and having too much pizza. It's not a good combination to do the 60-second challenge on the Challenger.
As hard as you can.
Talk about getting chiseled.
So that's our fitness advice for the week. So anyone who's about to see how much of any athletic event they can do in a 60-second time frame, don't eat pizza right before you do it. That's our advice on how to achieve the best results there. No, but it was a fun visit. We really appreciated it. And now we're all enjoying having that product here on our showroom floor. In fact, I think I haven't walked by it yet and not seen somebody from the team jump on there for a minute and burn out a quick 60 seconds on it. It's a fun way to get some exercise during the day without spending a lot of time, and I've enjoyed it. So that was a fun event, and we're really enjoying the opportunity to use the space that we have here for those types of things, to invite our colleagues, friends, partners out. And, Robert, I'm sure you can speak to that a little bit about, what you had envisioned for the space here, but hopefully those of, some of these early events and things we've done here have been, what you had in mind for the space. Hopefully we're making you proud.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting tweaked as needed to make sure that our customers have something like this product, the Chisel Challenger. And I think what's interesting is that we, through the open house, got some folks responding to it, seeing people try something so new, so I guess you could say state of the art. I mean, the guys there, Jason and, well, specifically Joe, spent a long time designing that. So I took a page out of Jason's, I guess, sales pitch, you could say, and I look forward to actually putting it on the back of a trailer and going to the various clubs in the area. I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Now, weather pending, of course, but get down there to the various clubs in the area because I don't think anyone's gonna really know what this product can do until you try it. And I think that's what we said.
Yeah.
Even when we were at the AB show. It's like you look from a distance, you're like, but when you get on it, totally different experience.
Yeah, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then 60 seconds on that thing is worth a
1,000 words.
Encyclopedia Britannica
1,000 birdies.
volume or 2 dozen. No, but it really is a unique product, and I think that we really enjoy getting to work with that team. And they're a small company, kind of like us here at RMS. We're grassrootsing our effort here, and they're kind of doing the same. So it's exciting to work with a company who has a similar mindset in that regard. But speaking of adding things to spaces, like we brought that unit in here this week, and we talked a little bit about how we've tweaked the space a little bit. We've talked also last week on our episode about space planning software that we use. We mentioned how we're going to do a 2-part series on that. Now, last week we were talking specifically about the space planning software we use, EC Design, and how that works to assist our customers. We focused last week on existing properties, ones that are going through renovations or additions, and how we use that software to assist them. And this week, we're going to talk a little bit more about that software, but we're going to talk more now about new construction and new development projects. So that's something that RMS is getting more and more involved in all the time. Most of our work started out in, working with our contracted customers on small scale sales and additions, but it's quickly grown to that level. So Robert, what would you say was our first new construction experience or project at RMS Fitness? Do you remember that project that we did? Emily, Robert, who remembers the first one? Emily?
It was what we called AGU. That was our first one.
Okay. So that one goes back to before my time.
Yeah.
So the first one I remember was when we were able to do the headquarters for the local telecommunications company that we did here. Don't know if I can say their name or not, but we were able to work with them there. And, that was a project that we did, a really large gym. And back then, that was something that was unknown to us, really.
Sure.
It was taking on a space that large was unique, and it was new to us, and we learned a lot of things even from that first job, and we've taken that that example that we learned there, and we've applied that to every job along the way, and we keep picking up more and more skills and things, and now we're to the point where I think as a company we're involved in somewhere between 40 and 50 new construction and new development projects, which is really exciting. So specifically, Robert,
Well, I was just going to add to that experience just so you can build off of where we were.
Oh, sure, please do, yeah.
Is in both cases, like I remember visiting the first one that Emily mentioned. We went down, hard hats, high vis. We did the whole 9 yards. We get down there, small room. But what happened in that transition is the room was told to me on a PDF to be one size. We went down the day of the delivery, and they cut a third of the room out.
Ooh.
So that made everything a little more tight.
A little snug.
Yeah, so learned something there. Then we get out to the larger one you're speaking of, where we went out, did a tremendous amount of equipment.
This was a very large space that we had to do.
But again, I kind of took the order. Like, we want this, this, and this. There wasn't a lot of creativity back then. It was, hey, you handle our fitness maintenance and repairs. We now need new equipment, and this is the list that we have in mind, which is fine. It worked fine. We went in, we did it. They had 2 rooms, in fact. They had one room which conventional fitness room, cardio, strength, and then they had what I think most people would allude to as a yoga room / stretch room, and so we put some things in that room. But what I remember about that is that the layout itself had to take place the day of the install. Whereas now, which I think you're going to allude to later, is we can even have a little bit of that experience by having this software move equipment around as opposed to physically moving equipment around. So I'm going to hand that off to you because that's where we started, taking kind of the orders from the customer, placing the equipment where they wanted, but that was way past a lot of the initial checks that we have along the way.
Just remembering that job, and the day of that job I totally forgot, but you asked me because I guess you were with, it was the whole company was involved, and you were with the crew unloading equipment from the trucks, and you had me inside kind of dictating where things should go.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But just that's how far we've come.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's where some companies still are. Not to throw stones at a glass house, but some companies are still there. But I think what we're going to talk about today is how we can enhance that experience so that, fortunately for us on that one job, it all went well. It doesn't mean it's always going to go that well, because I can't imagine if that room would have been any smaller where that equipment would have went. So it was an open slate, open room. Very few, even the smallest mistake, you wouldn't have noticed it because there was just that much of a canvas to work with. Mm-hmm. But that's not all the case, and that's why we work so hard on the front end. So, Steve, please take it from here.
Thank you. No, that was a really great summary of, kind of where we began that process and where, to your point, many people might still be for a lot of different reasons. And, in some cases, it's not always wrong to have a customer who makes some selections and you help them to achieve that goal, right? But what we really want to talk about today in particular is how the software that we use and the lessons that we've learned along the way help us to become more than that for our clients. And really not so much what we do, but how that benefits the client, the customer, the residents, the investors, and everybody along the way, because that's what it's all about. I mean, if we can create a valuable offering that benefits everybody in the process, then, I think people will be pretty happy with that. So, along the way in new development, there are, it might be in a situation where, for instance, on an existing property, you may be dealing with just the property manager when it comes to the decision. Maybe there's a regional manager involved, but with any type of new development or new construction, there are many, many decision makers. There's architects involved, there's designers involved, there's builders, there's the owners, there's the investors, there's the developer, and that list can get real crazy. Sometimes I get emails that have 20 and 30 people's names on them, you know what I mean? Because there's that many people that are in some way involved with the project. So, really, some of the core people that I thought of, though, that the software really helps us to benefit along the way were the designers, the owners, the builder and the GC, and then the management company that's going to come in behind all of them and then activate that property. And I thought those are some of the core people that we benefit, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So right out of the gate, some of the obvious, people that we want to make sure that we're working to benefit are the owners and the investors of the properties. These are the people that, are putting their money up. They're kind of putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and they are, being the ones that put the financial investment into the property. And they're the ones that are going to hopefully, receive some financial benefit from owning that property in the long term. So how do you think that being able to plan a room for someone in that situation, show them with the real models of the equipment and things, show them the real FF&E, the final product, how do you think that helps an owner or an investor, Stephen, to feel about going through a process of developing a fitness amenity in their building?
Well, it helps them to see where the money's actually going and the type of products that they're actually purchasing, because you can talk up a vehicle and put a ton of money down for a vehicle and be unhappy with the product when you have never seen it, but then when you actually see it, you're unhappy. So the advantages of this software, this design software that we have, is that you can at least show the owners, the managers, the GC, what the room will look like in real time, in 3D, and see where the money's actually going. Because, let's be honest, new design, new construction is not cheap. There's a lot of money being thrown around, and when you have those 3D renders, those 3D designs, those walkthroughs, it helps put the minds at ease that they're definitely going to get a return on their investment.
Right. So the owners or investors, that's the perfect answer, Stephen. They're primarily, to my understanding, they're interested in making sure that they get the value out of what it is that they are purchasing. So when they're outfitting a fitness amenity, they're trying to make sure that what they're putting into that amenity helps them to market their property, helps them to lease units, helps them to drive competitive rents in the markets and things like that, so that they can in turn, generate some profit from their investment, right? That's really what it's all about. So that person wants to look at that information. They want to look at a proposal and see not only how much money they're spending, but they want to make sure that what they're spending is going to earn them what they want. It's going to achieve them what they want, right? So when they see those renders and they see the final product and they see, okay, this isn't just a top-down view of a gym, right? With little 2D lines drawn to indicate a square for a treadmill or something like that, but really they can see the feel of the space. It helps them to have a lot of confidence in what they've, potentially invested in there. So I know that in my experiences with them, that's been very impactful for them in just seeing that final space and knowing what it is that they're about to kind of quote unquote pull the trigger on when they sign that. Robert?
Just to add to that, I think you may have, with as many people as you cross paths with, the last handful of these opportunities I've had, I guess I am pleasantly surprised how many owners are aware of what's fitness equipment is out there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're adding and taking away what they envision to be the fitness room. So some owners are very involved in the process. It's just not a numbers game, amount of units, a look, but actually the functionality then for them plays a role. Like how many treadmills, a multi-station versus a Smith machine versus a functional, how they intend for the room. Because fitness does affect a wide range of people, and those who are enthusiasts about the fitness world, if they're in ownership, you kind of tend to see that they are having their input. Like I said, they select certain equipment or may ask for other additional equipment to be added because they're into that world, and hence they want that signature on the equipment that, hey, I made these choices because of my knowledge of the fitness world. And so that plays a role as well.
Yeah, and I think that really was the perfect follow-up to what Stephen said. A lot of times there are different types of clients. Some people are very fitness oriented in that they know a lot about fitness. If they're very active themselves, they may have their own preferences about what they want to see in the gym in terms of how they might like to work out. But then that's where our expertise comes into play in benefiting those customers, because we're not he may have listened to a prior episode where we're not, going to just say yes to any idea that comes along just because it's what the owner or developer wants to do. Now, ultimately, they're the ones with the money and they can spend it how they'd like to spend at the end of the day. But, we do try to push back on that a little bit if we think there's, valid reason to help them create something that's really valid. And sometimes, their own individual preferences can obfuscate that a little bit because, they're maybe kind of shopping for themselves. And that's where our industry knowledge and understanding of what's going on in the market around them is really important too. So we can really combine, how much an owner does know or doesn't know along with our own expertise and come up with that perfect, package of equipment and accessories and things that kind of creates that space that they feel really good about. So you kind of brought up a nice point where I was going to say there are nice, clients where they're really hands-on with the gym. And then there's others who just go, I don't know this, I don't do this. What do you recommend? So in either case, I found that this software is helpful because if they don't know anything, they just want to feel good. And when they see something that looks good and they see the final product, they might not understand what each individual machine in the drawing does, but they can tell it means business, right? And they feel good about it. Same could be said for the customer who has a lot of understanding about equipment. They'll look at that and they'll see things they know, and they'll be able to see themselves moving about that room. So in that way, I think it helps us with either both educated and uneducated customers in that regard. But Stephen, what's a common thing, unfortunately, that happens when we go into new developments if their communication isn't good, and we get out there to install new equipment? Maybe we didn't communicate well with the person who's actually building the building. So maybe what are some of the things that we encounter, because of that?
So one thing that that we've encountered, and I'm sure other companies encounter and other properties encounter, is you design a space and the construction team doesn't consider where certain outlets are supposed to be placed. So when you have in your design treadmills, but there's no discussion with regards to outlet location, that's kind of critical. And when it comes to point of installation and all the walls are closed up and stuff, that can be a serious frustration to not only property managers, owners, but also the construction crew as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert?
And I think one of the resolutions to a situation like that is a site visit, right? I mean, you go out, you walk the room, and along the way, in the construction world, they're making changes, right? Along the way, budgets can change, circumstances can change. Ownership may come in and say, I want this section changed like this. I need more area. Even a designer may have more input once we start to get walls up. So you walk through.
Don't
you
steal
see
my
it.
designer thunder, Robert. I'm headed there next.
I understand. So, you get out there, and to Stephen's point, there are some misses. I'm thinking of a room where a very popular product is the Reflect, and where you place that in the room can be very critical. I was thinking about an install not too terribly long ago. It was on several floors, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, we got to make a change here, guys. I know you saw it on the wall. You know what it's supposed to do, but someone didn't get the memo. Not to overuse that word, but someone did not get the memo. And
Emily, did you send the memo?
No.
So there needs to be a change, and I guess for us, what we're trying to do is sometimes not possible, but I hope people get the sense that we try to do things right the first time, so that the frustration down the line, they don't remember, hey, RMS didn't give us this piece of information. And circling back to your software, that's why we have the software. Try to get all those questions, all those concerns out front of the last screw or the last wall that goes up, so that we don't make those mistakes later down the line.
Yep. Stephen, since I forgot you earlier, I'll give you another chance. What's going on?
I think another thing that happens and gets overlooked is, we'll talk about ceiling clearance and height, right? And they'll tell you, yeah, you got 10-foot ceilings, nothing to worry about. But then what happens when you show up? You got these little floating light fixtures right where you're putting a climber or a stepper, and it just happens to be right, your head just happens to be right next to it, or you get close to hitting it. So that tends to be an issue, and that's why, like Robert said, site visits are critical, so that we can catch those before they happen at install.
Emily, look all this involvement. Look at that. Emily?
Well, I was also thinking about one of your installs that we went out on, and there was a team there.
Bracing for impact. Backhanded compliment incoming.
No. But just I remember we were concerned because we were putting a Smith machine up, but they were putting TVs, and the TVs were hanging super low.
Oh, yeah.
Which obviously was not going to work out with putting the Smith machine there. So that's just another thing, is like TV placements, how high, how low, but even just the placements of them in the room, because a lot of times, the treadmills are faced a certain way to see the TVs. So that's just another thing.
You're right. Robert, we're coming all the way around. We batted for the whole cycle here.
I
We're
just
back to
wanted to
Robert.
add to Emily, because I think that was a good catch. I remember that install. But I believe those TVs were an afterthought.
Yeah.
So no one actually reached out to us and said, hey, we're going to add TVs. Is that going to be and that's critical. That's critical, because to Emily's point, the TV legitimately was much lower than I've ever seen in the fitness room. And I have an electrician there, and I'm like, I'm not sure that's going to work. but I'm not going to stop you from what you're doing.
Right.
So I've reached out.
Typically mount a TV like 2.5 feet off the ground in a
Right.
a commercial.
Exactly. I'm like, this one was different, but
Yeah, no,
but I'm
it
sure
was
they
low.
had a reason.
Yeah.
But again, that Smith machine was going to dictate wherever those TVs go, and someone didn't let the electrician know, hey, that's not a good spot.
For sure. I'm coming right to you, Em. But that's an advantage before I forget to tap onto what Robert was just saying of bringing a partner in early on the fitness amenity. We do sometimes find that, I love them because they just reached out to me this week and we're going to have an opportunity probably to do a gym together. But I had someone send me an email today and said, hey, we're developing a project. It's this size, this many things. We're going to, do the gym and we need it all by March 1st. Like, okay, like I can pull it off, but I don't really know what I'm getting into there, right? Like there's so many things in motion with that project already. The outlets are already where they're at. I don't know if they're dedicated. I'm not sure if there's Ethernet. So I'm kind of reverse engineering the room at this point and like putting it together in a way that I know will work versus what I maybe would have done, if I'd have been involved from the very beginning. So that's just an example of what I thought of to your point. Some of those things are afterthoughts because not everything is thought about ahead of time when it should be. And like, again, I have projects right now that will probably not be completed until middle or end of 2026, but I'd rather be involved now and know I got to wait than be playing catch up later. Emily?
Well, as you were talking, I realized that this thought that came in my mind is not about a new gym, like a newly designed gym, but it was another job of yours, and the room was set up a certain way, right? But they never communicated that this one door was needed access to for like storage. They made it seem to you that it wasn't important, and so the equipment that we were going to have kind of in that area, it was not a problem for access to that doorway.
Right.
But then on site, we get there, and all of a sudden, the cleaners and whoever was working there was like, no, that's a big problem.
It was a much higher traffic
Yeah.
area than we thought.
Yeah, so then we had to move some stuff around, and then they lost some space because of that.
Yep. So all really good examples of the more information that we can get up front, especially when it comes to where things are going to go into the room, the better that we're going to be able to ultimately assist the customer. So that's where those the room planning software comes in to benefit in terms of working with the GCs and the builders, because we can get in there and we can use symbols to identify outlets, Ethernet, the difference between regular outlets and dedicated outlets, which pop quiz, Emily, which type of units need dedicated outlets typically? Treadmills, yeah. Typically things that have motors that are going to be, pulling lots of power to generate, the activity of the machine. They're going to need a dedicated outlet. So we can indicate all of those things to the GC ahead of time, and then they know the room that they're working in. They have a map to work on. It can be imported directly over their CAD drawings now, which is a nice update to the software that we've been working with. And that all makes it really easy for our partners to achieve the results that they're looking for and not be kind of caught off guard in the end. So we mentioned them a little bit. I saved them for the end because in my experience, they tend to be like the ultimate gatekeeper, but the designers, how is it, what do you think that the ultimate goal of a designer is in creating a space? Now, usually when I say designer, I'm talking about the interior designer who's in charge of, the looks and decorations and things. What are their end goals, really, do you think, Stephen?
Well, to make the gym appealing and attractive. And so when property managers go and show the gym to prospective clients, they want it to be eye-catching. And because, the first 15 seconds when you walk into a room will give you either a good impression or a bad impression.
19.
Yes.
Please get it right.
So you mentioned earlier, though, about the hangy lights. Who do you think picks those hangy lights? Emily.
The designers.
The designers, right? So they're the ones that pick the color of the wallpaper. They're the ones that are going to pick out the color of your flooring. They're the ones that are going to decide whether you have a flat wall or built-in cubbies on the wall. They're going to pick where your water fountains and things in the room go. So Robert, why do you think being able to work closely with this person ahead of time by incorporating, pause, let me backpedal just 10 seconds. part of what we can do with the software is, in addition to importing the room so that we have the exact space to work with, we can also pretty closely replicate whatever FF&E is picked out by the designer. So they'll send us a design package that has like the flooring samples, the different things, and we can then find in the software the closest representations of that as possible. So what do you think being able to do that in a room and then send those images to a designer, how do you think that helps them in their process? I don't know if that's a softball or not, but
I like to think that when you can get that much detail to someone, especially in that profession, they can then use it to their advantage to tweak whatever they're trying to do. I would also like to think that because of that, the type of equipment that we're putting in there, the end result is what they're looking for. And without that, again, you go from the old world to 2D where you can't perform any of that. But taking on the painstaking process of finding the paint color, the floor color, any kind of, let's just say they're putting in some benches or tables, or because sometimes you get, I don't know if this is the proper word for designers, forgive me, designers who may be listening, but a more progressive, more modern approach to a fitness center is you start to putting some accents into the room that wouldn't normally be in a gym, because you don't want it to have that typical gym feeling. You want it to flow from so as you're walking in the lobby, which is generally what we're working with, they have a flow into the lobby that's inviting them in, and then you go from that. You don't take a drastic change and completely take away from that look once you get in the fitness room. That same look goes right into the fitness room. So whatever they're trying to do, it's the full package. And again, going back to your question, if we can add all of those details, the designer, if we can get them to say, oh, okay, now this is all making sense. Recommendation Steve made, Robert made, Steven made. I see him live. Once the designer's on board, right, generally the next couple of steps go much easier. But if a designer sees, hey, I have some questions, that'll slow the process down, because maybe we're not getting them enough detail. But because we can, that process goes a lot easier.
yeah, you really kind of hit the nail on the head. I had an experience last week where I put together a room for someone, and the designer was asking me, can we turn some equipment and put it against this wall? And I said, I noticed you have a lot of windows in this area of the gym. I said, I feel like you want to make sure that what you can see through those windows looks good, right? Like, because these were interior windows, so they were from common areas or hallways that would look into the fitness center. So I was able to put the equipment that she wanted where she wanted it in the room, take the camera, pivot to the outside of the room, to the other side of the window, and say, no, but this is what people will see when they're walking down the hallway. And she was like, oh, I hate that. Like, I would not want them to see the backs of all those machines and stuff as they're coming down this main area of the gym. So that's an area where the technology, I would have never been able to articulate. I mean, I may have said, are you sure you're going to want to see the back of the equipment? And they probably would have just said, oh yeah, it's fine. But actually being able to see, oh, that's what the back of that looks like. That's what those hinges on that multi-press look like from behind. It made them decide that they didn't want to go that route. And we were able to tweak the gym, and we avoided any sort of, what's the worst case scenario is you show up on a delivery day and you cannot complete the delivery, or the customer doesn't like what you've done. Like, if you get in there and you deliver a gym, you want to leave and everyone be like flying high. And if the designer walks down the hallway and they're like, I hate this, you're going to get an email. They're going to ask what we can do to solve it. And then we're going to be trying to work backward to solve some problem that we really could have, avoided from the beginning. So I thought that was really nice. The designers, they have a really important job, because as you mentioned, Robert, there's a story behind most new developments now. It's not just, here's a building in DC. Most of them are trying to tell a story from the time you drive past it out front to the time you sign your lease, and everything that you experience there in between. So helping them helps us, helps the owners, helps the end product. It's all good. The management company is the last people that usually get involved. When these properties are getting close to being completed, they start to take over the keys to things. They're tasked with the lease up, getting the place up and running, getting the vendors in place, getting the amenity ready to go for the people that are moving in. I don't know if anyone wants to take a stab at it, but what do you think this software can do that is helpful to those people in terms of getting the property off the ground during lease up, right? The gym may not be delivered until a couple days before the gym opens. So how can we help the property there, Emily?
Well, I was thinking that with the pictures that you guys do on the software, is good social media of what the gym will look like, what that amenity is going to look like. Get everyone excited about it, and definitely will be a way for people to see what's going to be there and be excited and want to start living there.
Yep. I have a property right now. It's pretty common that they start doing hard hat tours once the property is pretty close to being completed. Well, we don't bring our equipment in until it's done, right? We don't want them to get dirty, damaged, anything like that. So, people oftentimes, if they sign early leases, they're not seeing the equipment. But I have had properties print out large, prints of the renders that we've created and put them up on little easels or whatever you would call them, podiums, so that at least when they bring them around that part of the building, they can see, maybe what they're expecting. I've had the pleasure of going to a couple websites and seeing some of my renders show up on people's websites ahead of time, which wasn't, I didn't send them the renders with that in mind, but I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was really cool, and it made me feel really good that they felt so good about what we created for them digitally that they felt comfortable using that as marketing for their property. And if I have to say so myself, the final product was very in line with those renders, and I think that we executed that really well. But I think that that's really important too, because they're the ones that come in. The owners, the developers, the builders, the contractor, the designer. They've all worked really hard to create a product, and then they kind of hand the keys over to the kingdom, to the management company, and they expect them to kind of hit the ground running and bring it all together for them. So. Being able to support them in that role is really important. Shameless plug for RMS Fitness, but what's one thing that we pride ourselves on about all the brands that we sell, Robert? That we at RMS Fitness in particular pride ourselves on?
Well, I think at this point, those who are going to be responsible for managing the property can be given a sense of security that the person selling the equipment to them will also be the folks that will be servicing it. And so if there is a concern out of the gate, management can call, get assistance right away. For the most part, it's something that can be handled under warranty. So there's no cost. It's not a lot of, it's a matter of a phone call or email to us. It's that simple. We come out, we address the problem. They're not trying to, especially if they're putting together an open house.
Yep.
They want to have it right. There's services we do in the background that most people don't see. You, me, Steven, we've gone out to our finished products after the fact, walked them, checked them out, made sure, met the managers, and said, hey, if you have a concern, give us a call. But right now, your fitness center is ready. So we look forward to hearing from you in the near future about how the residents feel about the fitness center. So yeah, it's a matter of all through that line you mentioned, you get to the management, there's no disconnect. We're traveling through each step of the way, and we don't leave the project. We continue beyond the actual finished product throughout the years, servicing it, maintaining it, keeping that relationship going.
Man, that was perfect. The episode's over. We're done. No, no, but you know what? That I couldn't have said it better. And I'm a pretty long-winded guy, so that was pretty good. But you hit the nail on the head, Robert. Man, the products that we sell, we stand behind. We have long since hit a point in our company's history where all the products and partners now that we work with, we're very selective about that. We are only offering things that we think are going to deliver a high final product, a high value to our clients. We're not interested in unsatisfied or unhappy customers, investors, developers, designers, architects, anyone along the way. We want everyone to be happy with what it is that they experience at RMS. We'd rather you not experience it with us than to experience it and be unhappy. I think I speak for Robert when I say that.
Should I let him speak for me?
No, you got
No,
it.
we should go there. No, Steve, you make a good point. Reassurance to them that we're a partner through the entire process, not just the sale of the equipment. And I could go on and on about this, but 2024 you managers, I know you're stressed out. You get a fitness center, you get the entire property, you have a lot going on. The fitness center needs to be a seamless process. You need to know that when you get the equipment, that you have someone backing you. You have a face, you know, for us, right? We meet these managers, we put our reputation on the line, and I'm trying to make that clear to ownership that they're making decisions and they're getting a product, but then that product you got to ask yourself, and I'm just stressing this, is that once you get that product, you're handing it over to your managers, and you want the residents to have a great experience of taking that property, leasing that apartment, whatever it may be, and that whole process of them being welcomed into that new property has to be top notch so that you can go on and build the next property. And that's where we come in, is that it just doesn't become a headache that, you know, owners invest in a product, you know, the salesperson's there, they give you the speech, and then the moment you have a concern, their answer to you is you have to call for service back to the factory. It's not the case here.
Nope.
You know, I pride myself on that 100%. You know, I think most people would agree. You go to buy a car. I've used this illustration before. You buy a car, talking to the salesperson. Generally speaking, they take you over to the service department, introduce you to the service manager. So I ask anyone in this process, go through all the steps. Don't just buy the equipment, but go through all the steps. Okay, so I'm going to buy this property. I'm going to turn it over to a management company. When it gets to that point, who, Mr. Salesperson, am I supposed to tell my manager who to contact after the sale? May I meet them? Who are they? Who's the person behind that? Put a person in that position. That's what we do here at RMS Fitness. We have a face behind the service department, not just an abstract website that we're going to refer you back to the factory.
Yep.
We're more than that.
And you'll always be able to hear the voice of the person that you dealt with. You know, see your way through the project, the problem, whatever it is that you may have. That's really important to us, you know, and I think it's important, you know, when we pick the name of this podcast, everyone needs a spotter. You know, it may seem like a silly name, but when you pick a spotter, you know, at the gym, right, you know, it's kind of an important thing, right? You know, what's the spotter there to do, Emily? You know, what's a spotter doing for you in the gym?
Man, they're there to make sure you're doing everything right. Make sure it's safe. Just make sure you're just performing everything correctly.
Yeah, and when you slip, you need them more than ever, right?
Yeah, they're there to help catch it with you.
Yeah, so you wouldn't pick a spotter that was like every time you did a set, they ran off real quick and they were talking to 20 other people and you could never find them and you had to call them and keep begging them to come by and stand behind you, right? You want that person that's like taking that job seriously. Yeah. So we picked the name for a reason. We think it really represents well what we're trying to do here. Everyone does need a spotter. Everyone in the world needs someone to have their back, whether it's a friend in your personal life or a colleague in your professional life. Everyone needs somebody in their corner, and we hope to be that, you know, for folks in the multifamily industry. We know that you have to be experts on everything. You know, some of you have swimming pools and saunas in your community. Some of you now have podcast recording studios in your communities. That's a new thing that we're hearing about. Dog parks, you know, dog salons, all these things that you have to know how to take care of. Well, you don't have to be a gym expert. Just tune in every other Friday to Everyone Needs a Spotter, and we'll continue to provide you with the resources that you need. And hopefully, you know, one day we can be an actual partner to you in, you know, achieving some results that you're looking for there in the gym. Robert?
So as we're winding down, Steve, did you know Steven was going on vacation?
Again?
Wait,
hold on. It's been a long time, bro. Where are you going? You've really earned this one.
It has been a long time. I don't know
No,
what you
it
guys
has
are
not
talking
been
about.
that long. You went to Iceland.
Okay, well,
Okay,
Iceland
he went
was
to
a lot-
Iceland 3 months ago.
yes,
Okay.
it was a long time
in his
ago.
defense, he does like to travel.
Yeah,
He did say that.
it's what I do.
He does.
I like to travel.
He does. We met in our company quarterly meeting last week. We were all asking coworkers what they do for fun. Steven said he likes to travel.
And Steve says sales. No.
Sales! No. Someone asked me what I do for fun, and before I could answer, all of my rude coworkers said, I like to learn about
Sales!
sales and selling.
And if I'm not doing that, I'm reading about it. I
So
love
that
you,
being
Steve.
said, I'm going to go join a Krav Maga gym this weekend and do something new with my life.
We love you, Steve.
No, thank you
And
guys.
Steven, even
And
though he's going
Steven.
away again.
So Steven won't be here next week. We all will. So regardless of the fact that we're not going to be here on Monday, Tuesday through Friday here, 9 to 5, you can find the rest of us hardworking folks at RMS Fitness holding down the fort. Anybody have anything they want to say before we get into the weekend? Emily, what are you off to on this fine 4-day weekend?
I am on an adventure of a lifetime.
Oh.
Oh
I
my.
She's
am-
babysitting.
Oh
I
my.
am babysitting my baby cousin for 2 nights.
Oh.
He's not even 2 years old yet.
Okay, I almost said his name, but we're not going to do that because that's
Yeah.
like, we live in this world.
So
we
I'm
live in.
excited. I am excited. I'm not saying that dreadfully. I am excited to do that.
Oh,
I
man.
feel flattered.
All right. Well, just let me know if you need a hand. I'll call someone who cares.
Yeah. Thank you.
Steven?
Yeah, I'll be down in Florida having a good time. Hopefully, I'll have some good weather. But last year I brought cold down there. This year, I don't know. It's looking kind of iffy, but we'll see. We'll see.
Steven's going to bring me back some Cuban food,
Yes.
some
oh,
ropa
man.
viejo, whatever.
Vieja.
Vieja. I was right the first time.
Ropa vieja.
I don't know who that was. That wasn't me. That was not Steven Heitzer from RMS Fitness. No, that's awesome, man. We hope you have a really good time on your
Thanks,
trip, bro.
man.
We know that
Appreciate
you
it.
really like getting back down to visit your family. Steven
I
moved up
do.
here a long time ago from Florida, folks, and he's been a long way away from his family for a long time, so we don't begrudge him periodically once a
Yeah,
week
as
taking
long
the trip
as he
back.
exactly, as long as he goes down to visit and gets that out of his system, just so that he stays living here,
Right.
we make those exceptions.
We'll see.
It's
I'll
like
visit
every
some
year.
property managers down there.
Every year, it's part of his like continuation of employment is here. We had to give him like one more week of going home to Florida every year. Eventually, he's going to just live there again because of that. But no, Robert, what are you up to, man?
Let's see. I think the theme of the weekend will be sleep.
Yeah, I'm feeling it, bro.
You know, I'm saying just going to catch up on some things around the house. Nothing really to jump out at me, but 4-day weekend. Looking forward to re-energizing, and then come Tuesday, few loose ends as you mentioned, as we tighten up the year of 2023. As like today, lots of folks in our industry are trying to beat the wire, get things on the 2023 books so they can have some new equipment for 2024. So I look forward to a lot of that communication next week. And at the same time, looking forward to a very fresh and exciting 2024.
Yeah, it's all. Can't believe it's the year's coming to an end already. We're coming up on a long episode, so we're gonna get ready to wrap this one up. But you know, in thinking of that, I did just want to say, you know, there was basically that this time of year, in addition to all the fun that we normally, you know, have and people enjoy this time of year with friends and family and things, it is also a time of year when a lot of people do struggle. You know, it's getting dark earlier, it's colder. This time of year can sometimes be a struggle for people. So it is a time of year that I like to encourage you to reach out to a friend, a family member, someone that you maybe haven't heard of, even if it's someone that you think is doing okay, and take the time to check in on them this time of year, because it is, again, it can be a time of year that can be struggling in spite of all the good things that are going on in a lot of people's lives. So that's our little, you know, we're big here on mental health at RMS Fitness. We've had lots of different friends and people that have dealt with that, even ourselves. So, you know, we like to make that a point to mention it when we can and we think it's appropriate. So reach out to somebody that you love. Do something awesome today. I am Steve Heitzer, joined as always by the faithful team here at RMS Fitness, Steven Donadio.
Steve, the Thursday Don Donadio.
Steve, the Boca Raton Donadio.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, buddy. Emily?
Yeah, man, it was a nice podcast. It was a good discussion today, and we'll miss you, Steven, next week, but we'll have fun next week too.
Yeah. Coming up on an hour. Robert?
Steve, I love these subjects where going in, I say to myself, I have nothing to say. And then all I do is talk. So thank you for having me today.
It's the best part of what we do here. Just getting together, getting to know each other better. We come across these random tidbits of information we didn't even know we had to
He
share.
said wee.
We.
And tidbits.
I think that's a wrap.
On that note, guys, wee-wees and tidbits. Have a great weekend. This has been Everyone Needs a Spotter from RMS Fitness.
See ya.